The island of Mindanao is dubbed as the country's land of promise for its untapped, promising natural resources and rich biodiversity. Aside from its wondrous tourist destination, Mindanao is renowned as the home of notable ethnic group called Lumad.
Pangbaging na mga buwan mabulig problema lagi.
Good morning, netizen. I am your reporter today. I am Rafaela May Saituno with my partner.
I am Jerica Megan Macalinaw.
And welcome to Flash News Report.
The most controversial issue for today is that all about the indigenous people in the southern Philippines.
Yes, partner, as we could look back in our news all over the Philippines, the indigenous people caught in the fight of government and NPA.
You know, partner, it's so sad that in all things that happening in them, this kind of problem might be a trigger for everyone's mood.
I feel the same thing for now. Let's take a look of in the incident happening today.
We would like to call our reporter in Mindanao, Miss Mandria S. Parker.
Yeah, what's happening in there right now?
As we would look back, there are a lot of people doing a rally that should the government stop doing against them. And all I can say, that is so sad that this is what they feel all over the past years. As we can see, in their banners, it says no mining and stop Luma tribes killing. A lot of innocent people has been caught in the middle of the fight. That's my end of my report. Back to you, Miss Asaituno.
Thank you, Miss Maria.
That's so tragic, right? Being right in the middle of the fight against the government and the NPA. So, that is for today Flash News Report. Again, thank you everyone.
We are indigenous people in this planet and we have to reorganize to along together. We can build a world where the indigenous people rights are respected, where their voice are honored and their community thrives.
So confidence can be a thought things to build up. So indigenous people really need to boost their confidence in life because they have a distinct language, culture, and beliefs. Confidence is knowing that you have skills and positive traits that you are able to face challenges and deal with difficult circumstances. It is also important for us to be confident because the confidence is based on our knowledge and experiences with our own culture.
We must motivate and encourage them, help them to show who they are to the world. Indigenous people should be appreciated and never ignore them. Let us help them to boost their confidence in dealing with other people.
All I can say to boost the confidence of indigenous people is they are not different from others or from us because they are human too and we are both created by God.
One thing I can say to indigenous people is that they are not just nobodies in society. They play an important part in communities where they can help preserve the environment's beauty by just showing them respect and tolerance for their distinct culture.
What can we say about indigenous people to boost their confidence in life? I can say that indigenous people are just like us who were created by God. We should treat them equally as we interact with others. They should also be given proper treatment as a citizens and be valued. Don't be ashamed if you are belong to an indigenous people or group because we are all created equal and has its own abilities. Let's fight for their rights too.
How can we support Indigenous people? By promoting Indigenous groups and businesses. You can support the future of Indigenous youth by contributing to organizations like the International Indigenous Youth Council, which provides educational and skill-based training program. Thank you.
I can say that indigenous peoples are boosting their confidence and focusing on their priorities by maintaining the developed environments and the system as a distinct people.
That's the end of our video presentation for now. Let's continue the discussion about the indigenous people in southern Philippines. Objectives. At the end of the lesson, students should be able to identify the different types of indigenous people in southern Philippines. Second, to know the problem that they facing. And last, learn the way of life of the indigenous people in southern Philippines. And for your activity, based on your own understanding, what can you say about the photo being shown? So let's hear the discussants about their lesson in the indigenous people in southern Philippines.
Good morning, everyone. I am Sheena Ardales, your teacher for today. I'm going to discuss about the profile of indigenous people. According to some estimates, there are close to 100 indigenous peoples exclusive of the Muslim groups, though the exact size of indigenous population remains unclear, while the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples estimates that there are approximately 11.3 million indigenous peoples in the Philippines. For example, a figure amounting to around 11 to 12% of the civil society estimates suggest they may comprise between 10 and 20% of the population, which currently stands at around 102.9 million. There are two main ethnic groups comprising several upland and lowland indigenous tribes living within the Philippines. From the northern part of the country are called the Igorots, whereas those non-Muslim indigenous tribes living in the south are referred as Lumad. Lumad is a Cebuano term which means native. Their tribe is generally known for tribal music produced by musical instruments they've created. Also, there are smaller groups collectively known as Mangyan in the Central Islands. The Spanish crown, by virtue of colonization, claimed rights over the islands and authority to dispose of the land. Later, the U.S. authorities institutionalized their legal powers to dispose of all land and voided all the previous land grants by Moro or Lumad chiefs, as well as others throughout the Philippines that had been made without government consent. Only individuals or corporations could register private claims to land ownership. This left no room for the concept of ancestral or communal land, which indigenous Lumad had held to be sacred and not subject to individual title or ownership.
Good morning, everyone. I am Marcangelo Santos, your teacher for today. I am going to continue the discussion of Ms. Sheena Ardales. The Luman groups of Mindanao have faced and continue to face long-term displacement and legalized land disposition, which is also a threat to other indigenous communities in the Philippines. Meanwhile, in the southern part of the country, indigenous tribes are mostly found in Mindanao and Western Visayas. In Mindanao, these existing non-Muslim indigenous groups are collectively known as Lumad, a Cebuano term which means native or indigenous. It is a collective term used to describe the indigenous people of Mindanao. It is short for Katauhang Lumad, literally indigenous people. The name Lumad was spurred on by a political awakening among tribes. The United Lumad people of Mindanao sought and still seek to achieve the self-determination for their member tribes or more concretely, self-governance within their central domain in accordance with their culture and customary laws. The organization Lumad Mindanao is no longer intact, but the name remains and it is gaining more adherents.
Good morning, everyone. I am Aubrey Marie Pigliofe, your teacher for today. I am going to continue the discussion of Mr. Santos. Let's go for the current issues of the indigenous people in the southern Philippines. Although most indigenous communities live in isolated rural areas, a growing number are migrating to cities in search of a better livelihoods and social services. Many are driven from their traditional lands by militarization, tribal conflicts, and expansion of large-scale development projects, which frequently bring little or no benefits to the local communities, particularly women. Many indigenous women unable to secure employment with the mining companies and leave to find work in urban areas, suffering extreme poverty in cities like the northern city of Baguio or the capital city, Manila. They often face poverty and exclusion as a result of their limited formal education and the fact that their skills may not be suited to an urban context. In Baguio, where indigenous people make up over 60% of the population, it is estimated that some 65% of indigenous migrants suffer from extreme poverty. Many of them migrants women working as vendors in the city streets, where they are regularly pestered by police as part of the government's anti-peddling drive. Meanwhile, in the southern part of the country, indigenous tribes are mostly found in Mindanao and western Visayas. In Mindanao, these existing non-Muslim indigenous groups are collectively known as the Lumad, a Cebuano term which means native or indigenous. Their Lumad tribes comprise about 13 ethnic groups which are the Balaan, Bukidnon, Higaonon, Mamanwa, Mandaya, Manobo, Mansaka, Sangir o Sangir, Subanen, Tagabawa, Tagakaulo, Tasaday, and Tibuli. Let's go for the Lumad tribes. Lumad tribes who live within southern highland ranges are Sweden farmers and practice little trade. Like many of its neighbors, Bagobo society is ruled by a class of warriors known as Magani or Bagani. The Bagobos' elaborate dress and personal adornment are well known among anthropologists. The Tibuli and Teduray are also known for their baskets, trinkets, bracelets, and earrings made of brass. The Tibuli's tinalak are prized fabrics believed to be inspired by the dreams of the woman weavers. The Mandaya, Agusan, Manobo, and Ata share numerous cultural traits and social institutions such as in clothing and religious rituals. The practice, slash and burn, farming, and trade with neighbors, warriors headed by the Datu are greatly valued and respected.
And that is the end of the discussion. For your activity, make a slogan about giving courage to indigenous people. And for your assignment, please answer the following.